Evening, everyone. Hope you're well, and that for the students that are here, the drive towards the end of term isn't sort of slowing down just yet. I think you've got about 2 weeks left of term or something like that. But yeah, that should be good. Yeah. Welcome to this joint networking and workshop session. We're holding it in collaboration with Music Durham Band Society, and DH1 Records tonight. And tonight you'll be hearing from 5 women involved in contemporary music industry who in some form or another have ties with Durham, the university or the city. And they are Angharad Davies and Carlotta Meyer, both DH1 artists who are going to be telling you a bit about their music experiences in Durham. We've got Rebekah Fitch, a Hatfield graduate in 2017, who has just recently released the music video for a single, Loose Ends. Just as a plug, it's great. Have a listen to it, have a watch of it. It's really, really good. Martha Hill, who has just signed a record deal for The Orchard, so congratulations for her as well. And also Pamina, who's the former Music Durham president, who will be sharing a bit of her experiences in arts management and finding opportunities in music for those not necessarily looking for them, because I know that you didn't start off looking for for a road down the arts. No.
I wasn't sure, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So each of our guests will be talking a bit to start off with, generally about their experiences at university, their experiences moving forward, how they got to where they are at the moment. And then time allowing and questions allowing, we'll have a question and answer session from then, which may take the rest of the hour and 20 minutes that we have, or may take even 20 minutes. Who knows? It's just how, as long as you guys keep putting questions out there, I'm sure they'll have answers for it. There's not a lot of you guys in the group tonight, which is fine. If you feel comfortable in taking your microphone off to ask questions, and that's completely fine. If you don't, that's no problem. Just put it in the chat generally, and then I'll read it out, and then hopefully one of the 5 on the panel will answer. And also, just so everyone is aware, and for the purpose of the recording, this Zoom call is being recorded and will be published on our DOMAN's YouTube page either tomorrow or Wednesday. So once that's up, we'll share the link on the Facebook event that I created for this, and on our YouTube page as well. So keep watching out for our socials if you want to make extra notes from this evening. So we'll start off in alphabetical order with the artists talking about their experiences. And so alphabetically, that starts with Angharad.
Hi. I'll just do like a quick rundown of, I guess, like where I started with music. I think I've always just like written songs because I started with like classic piano and violin, and then my nanny, or like babysitter, who was a goth, that she like taught me how to play like electric guitar, and I thought it was so sick. And then I've just kind of always done that, and then I went to like a music production school where they taught you how to like use do like music production, or like is where you would go if you wanted to start a band and stuff, which I kind of enjoyed more than like the traditional music route. And that's how I found like one of the teachers. So most of the teachers were like producers or like singer-songwriters as well, and they would and then so one of them wanted to manage me. And then that kind of relationship didn't really last very long. I think it's quite a common thing in the music industry to like find people who want to work with you, and then it doesn't really go very well, kind of thing. And I also started putting up songs just on SoundCloud, and there's literally an account which I can't remember the password to, so it's just all the bad songs up there forever. And then it just kind of took lockdown for me to put up a song on Spotify, and that's how I then found my management today. And now I'm doing like it's quite weird because of the like pandemic, so I'm doing like song writing sessions over Zoom, which is quite different. I'm like filming my first music video also in like a pandemic. And then that's also how I got into DH1 with Ottilie and Alfie. Alfie messaged me to do like a bit for the Purple Radio. I sent him like my song, and then they just both got in contact with me and said we'd love to work with you, and I was so happy to do that. So I love I've been a big fan of DH1 since then. I mean, since before. So yeah.
Nice, nice. Just as an extra question on the lines of obviously you were having to work in a very different experience than what you imagined commercial music at university to be like for you. Do you feel like you've learned some skills this year that you wouldn't have but for us being in this situation at this point in time? Do you feel like you've accelerated in sort of like production skills, like in collaboration online and stuff like that? How has that sort of helped your general musicality?
Yeah, definitely just taking more time to like write, and yeah, just more time to just think about stuff and write. But yeah, it would have just been, I think I would have loved doing a bit more live stuff just to get like practice, because I think that's what I need to improve on the most. But yeah.
Brilliant, stunning. Thank you very much, Angharad. And so we'll move on alphabetically from that to Rebekah.
Hello. Oh, that was so awesome to hear about, Angharad. I love hearing about your story. Thanks so much for sharing that. My name is Rebekah Fitch. I'm an alt pop artist from Belfast. I'm currently living in London. And yeah, I went to Durham, did music. It was awesome. I miss it. I love it. It was great. I'm jealous of all you guys that are still there. But yeah, so I think for me, deciding to become an artist is a real gradual thing because I grew up, did loads of music in school and threw myself into that because it was just something that I really resonated with. But I didn't grow up knowing any professional musicians or anything. And so I remember when I was super young, like asking my parents, like, how did you two like get to there? Like, how did they start in Dublin, like just being mates from school, and how did they get? And I just couldn't understand how people became professional musicians and artists without going on like the X Factor. And I was like, ugh, how on earth does this happen? But it was only really when I was towards the end of my time in Durham actually that I started to really integrate myself in the local scene in like Newcastle and get stuck in Belfast as well and meet other people who were just making it happen, and that's part of the magic of the time we're living in is like if you want to do music, you just do it now. You don't have to like, be super lucky and get picked up when you're really young. You can just forge a path for yourself. And I feel like it's been a long journey for me figuring out how to do that and what kind of artist I want to be. But I love writing really strong melodic music that is also quite experimental production wise. That's what I love playing around with. But I think underlying everything for me is I feel like as an artist, I'm trying to figure out what needs to be said and what people need to hear and put it in something that's really accessible and that helps people hear what they need to hear and find something that resonates with them. So I'm still very much learning as I go, but I just love creating and I love hearing stories behind how things, what I create resonates with people. So that's where I'm at right now.
Nice, thank you very much. So just as a follow-up question from you as well, we were talking before we came on the session here about how you've sort of incorporated different elements into your music making from different artistic environments. So for example, your single Game Over, that literally came with a video game as the music video, where you could sort of interact and play with it and score points against other people. And especially for your most recent single, Loose Ends, you had someone sort of weave a tapestry for you. And so it was sort of the clean side of the tapestry that people see versus the, let's say, not so clean side,
the chaotic side.
Exactly, the work in progress side. So how importantly do you see mixing with other sort of artistic inspirations to be able to create your own work? Do you feel it more important now, given that sort of all artists are sort of, I don't want to say struggling all in this together, but sort of like it's definitely become more of a challenge this year to be artistic. So do you think sort of that element of sort of cross artistic collaboration is more prevalent now than it has been in other years, or have you put it sort of primarily as always something that has been important to you?
I think it's always been there, but I hope it's becoming more apparent to people how much more powerful music can be and how much more powerful any artistic medium can be when it comes in collaboration with something else, because we have all these senses, like why not use them all at once so people can almost feel like they're in the universe that you want them to be in, and that's what you've created. So for me, like so many artists that I admire, they build these worlds around their artistry and around their music that it's not just limited to the songs, but it's a whole experience. And so I want to be able to incorporate that in. And like selfishly for me, it means I get to be creative in so many other different ways and play around with things. And I think, particularly for this time, it's been a long time since anyone has been bored in the 21st century because we have so many distractions all the time. And actually, in 2020, maybe was the first time people experienced proper boredom. And boredom is when ideas start to actually fester and manifest and people start thinking in original ways. We have space to do that. And so I hope more people invest in collaboration between the arts because it really does emphasize and drive home the message that you're sending out with your music. And it's far more fun as well. Like you just bringing in other creatives, like it just makes it chaotic and fun. Yeah.
Chaotic energy into the arts. We love to hear it. But thank you very much, Rebekah, genuinely. Now, alphabetically, we move on to Martha.
Hello. It's actually really interesting hearing both of those stories because they're quite similar to mine, in so much as like just having no idea of there being an industry, as Rebekah said, and then suddenly being like, oh wow, that's, there's other ways to achieve this other than just like going on X Factor, which was like my dream. Because I grew up in a small town in Scotland and there was just no connection to the music industry. And I kind of got into things classically as well. I played trombone as a teenager and kind of went to play classical trombone in Glasgow and dropped out after a term because it just wasn't for me. And ended up moving to the northeast because my cousins lived up around here and they were playing in like festival bands and stuff. So that was like my one connection, to like doing music properly. And then ended up kind of busking around Europe for quite a few years, playing guitar and just like, playing on the streets and coming home and being like, I want to be a musician and having absolutely no clue how to do that. Getting bored, going back to Europe and busking again. And one of the times I was back in Newcastle, I ended up hooking up with a band called Holy Moly and the Crackers and playing trombone for them. And they're like a big kind of festival, like gypsy folk and roll kind of band. So I played with them, and it was at a time when they were kind of starting to get in touch with booking agents and getting in touch with like the industry as a whole, rather than just like smashing around trying to make some music, but doing things a bit more proper. And that was really like my kind of apprenticeship into like, oh wow, there is an industry out there. Like there are managers, there are agents, there are producers, promoters. I didn't even know what any of these words meant. And off the back of that, I kind of started supporting them at some gigs and then booking my own gigs, and then ended up kind of dropping out of their band and just focusing on the solo stuff. And I released my first single in the summer of 2018, so it's kind of 3 years ago now. And since then I've put a couple of EPs out and done everything on my own. And then at the start of last year I got management, and in March last year I signed with a booking agent, which is like the most ridiculous time to sign with a live booking agent because obviously there's been no gigs, but it's been kind of nice because I haven't had to worry about it. She's been the one that's had to just rebook everything constantly. And then as you said, I've just signed my first record deal with The Orchard, which is really exciting. But I've already released two EPs on my own, and I'm excited to kind of engage a bit more with the industry. And
nice, brilliant. And again, as I did with Angharad and Rebekah, following on with you, Martha, you said that you sort of, while you primarily grew up in Scotland and then moved to the northeast, you gained sort of a cosmopolitan-esque influence moving around Europe. Do you have do you have any influences from that cosmopolitanism that stand out most prominently for you? And do you have sort of any examples of them in your music? Do you that sort of prominently stick out to you?
Not massively. I mean, my music's always been a bit of like a juxtaposition from like me, because I love alt pop, you know, I love pop music. And you don't get many pop artists that like bust around Europe like hitchhiking and living in squats. It's not really like the kind of the way the worlds tend to go hand in hand. But maybe that in itself, like, you know, kind of makes up part of my music, is that there is this constant pull between, I love big choruses and synths, but also I like sleeping in tents by the side of a road. And maybe that kind of is present in my music. I don't know.
No, brilliant. Thank you very much, Martha.
Cheers.
And
Thanks
then,
for having me.
no problem. Yeah, Martha has to dash off at past. But thank you for that. That's been really, really good. Thank you. Moving on from that, we have Pamina Husseini from KALAB here to tell us a bit more about arts management.
Hello, everyone. So thank you, the three of you, for sharing your stories. I mean, it feels so good to hear, you know, what artists like you, like where your passion comes from, what you're doing. And there's so many like hidden gems like you that so many people need to hear your music. So yeah, really good to meet you and to know your story. So for me, just a little bit of background. So I grew up in France, and although I've always been passionate about music, like I played the violin on the side, I've never studied it academically, but somehow got into Durham for music, and I've been loving it. So as George mentioned, I got involved in like leadership positions in societies, and I ended up being Music Durham president, which was absolutely incredible. I also like volunteered at some festivals and interned in arts management. So that got me, you know, I got a little idea of what part of the music industry is like. And then because I was still unsure, I did a master's in management. So not arts management, just more general, last year. And yeah, I got interested in entrepreneurship. So I got into that startup accelerator, and you know, in my head I was like, okay, I'm going to go into startups, I'm going to do tech, sustainability, this type of thing. And then I met a girl called Flo who had that idea for a music startup. So you know, couldn't resist. And I started that project with her, and with Talitha, who's the other co-founder. So yeah, the startup is called KALAB, and basically we provide emerging musicians with booking opportunities and yeah, promotion online. So I've been working there part-time for a year and a half, and I'm now currently balancing it with full-time employment as well. So yeah.
Nice, brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah. Also, just from conversations that we've had together, I know that you've been on internships and opportunities like that on the side that have helped you to sort of get to this position where you're at the moment. Do you have any specifics to tell us about those sort of internships, how you got into those positions, and sort of any advice on people here or listening to the broadcast who might sort of want to be in those positions where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So my first step was actually running for college and just like societies, or like the, you know, duos, this type of ensembles, leadership positions, because there are no prerequisites for that. And, you know, I just decided to go for it. And actually I got like I didn't get the role the first time for duos. I had to apply again. So don't discourage yourself if it doesn't work out. And then from that, yeah, I did that internship at IMG Artists. So it's an arts management agency. They have offices in several countries. They have one in London, and they focus mainly on classical artists. So I interned there for 3 months, and I just helped basically artist managers to manage, you know, tours, CD recordings, press, concerts, this type of things for a couple of prominent classical artists. Yeah.
Nice, brilliant. Thank you very much, Pamina. And finally, on our list of sort of introductions, we've got Carlotta.
Hi. I think it's so funny hearing like everyone talk about how like they got to where they are today, because I think my story is also very, very, very similar. So I'm sorry if you like start to get a little bit bored, but I was also like very passionate about music from like quite a young age, or like, you know, my parents forced me to like learn the piano. I'm very lucky to like be able to do that, but I just kind of stuck with that. Um, Picked up the guitar. I think there was like a pivotal moment where I watched a Taylor Swift documentary, and she like talked about how she practiced the guitar until like her fingers bled. And I was like, okay, like if I want to do this, like I'm gonna have to work so hard, like I'm gonna have to practice every day, like be like Taylor Swift. But so I like, yeah, I looked up to quite a lot of artists, but I think at the same time, you know, I didn't ever think that I could like write my own music, because I think everything that ever came into my head was like just awful, like point blank, really bad. But I like stuck with it, and I took a gap year after school, and suddenly I like had quite a lot of time, and I like heard some advice that I think was like one of the best pieces of advice that I'd ever heard, which is like um, anything that you like want to do in the future, or like you can see yourself doing in the future, you can always do a little bit of that like right now. Like you can always start whatever you want to do in some kind of way right now. I was like, yeah, I mean that is correct. Like I can do that. So I like downloaded some free like music production software, like started to learn how to do it, got loads of like free virtual instruments and stuff like that, and just tried to get to grips with it. Started like making my own kind of like little songs like through that. And yeah, then I got to uni, and like I posted one of them on SoundCloud, and I was like really excited about it. And I think that year, so I think at the beginning of my second year, I applied to DH1 Records, but got rejected like the first time. I was like, oh, I got to get better. And then I like made more stuff, and applied again at the beginning of this year, and this time got it, which is really exciting. So again, like it's another one of like, if even if you get rejected the first time, you know, you can apply however many times. If there's not a limit, like then it's not over. But yeah, so I've like got a couple of songs like that I've made like on SoundCloud, and I was really excited to start with DH1 this year, because I think it's the first time that I'm like working with other people who like know kind of what they're doing, or like have opportunities, or like more, I don't know, more technical stuff, which I haven't really like had experience of yet. But yeah, that's kind of like where I am now. Yeah.
No, brilliant. Thank you very much. And as is the theme for all of the other artists, a customary question before we move on to a sort of a question and answer session afterwards. Martha, I know you need to head off. That's no problem at all. But see you later. But as you and Pamina are both said that sort of in your starting monologue-esque things, you've sort of experienced a rejection from something, but then sort of brought yourself up to going for it again and sort of encouraging yourself to do it. I know, and also you were talking about how you were sort of listening to people who were saying sort of like practice until your fingers bleed, Taylor. So sort of my question to you is, what sort of advice would you give people who are in positions where they've been sort of like rejected by a few sort of organizations, by a few companies, by a few record deals maybe, that that sort of need that extra push just to get them over?
That's like, I think it's quite a hard question, because I think you need to be like, or I always want to be like realistic at the same time, but I think I've got like quite a few like people in my life that I can really like look up to in that respect. Like, and one of them is going to be such like a little cheesy story, but my mom, like she's a doctor, and she like works really hard. She's really good at her job. But when she was younger, like she wanted to be a fashion designer, and she kept it up, you know, she kept sewing stuff because she just really enjoyed it. And now she's been making like our whole family like jeans and everything, and she just keeps telling me like, even if it's just doing something a little bit on the side, like you always have to do a little bit of something on the side. Like you always have to have something that you enjoy that you do on the side. And so I think for me, like reapplying and stuff like that was kind of like, I'm still doing it. I'm still really enjoying it. And I think that I could still learn from this opportunity. So yeah, I'm going to go for it again, because even if I don't get it, like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, I'm still going to do it on the side. I'm still going to have fun with it, but it is just something that would improve what I'm trying to do. So I think what I would say to anyone who's like, you know, worried about rejection or has been rejected, like, at the end of the day, like, you're doing something because you really enjoy doing it. And you should always go for opportunities that you think will make you better at doing whatever. Because even if you do get rejected, you'll probably still end up doing that thing. And like, there's kind of no losing in that situation, if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, that completely makes sense. Yeah. And one last question for all 5 of you before we go to a little question and answer session. So if you do have a question, you can either pop it in the chat now, just for preparation, or you can give me a message just to say I have a question, and then when we come to you, you'll unmute your mic and then you'll say it. Just as a question for all 5 of you. Just as a generic sort of question, would you imagine yourself in the position that you're in maybe a year ago, 2 years ago? So if you were looking back at yourself 2 years ago, do you ever think you'd sort of be in this position where, for Martha, you've just signed for a record company, Rebekah, you've just released a music video, Angharad, Carlotta, you're both at university creating music, and Pamina, you're helping with an arts management company. Do you think 2 years ago, or 5, 2, 4, 3, any number in between, do you think that you would have seen yourself in this direction where you are now? And if you didn't, why? So probably start with Angharad to start off with, and then go alphabetically from there.
I think I kind of had a really surreal moment. I think it was 2 weeks ago, where I got featured on BBC Introducing London's Instagram.
Oh yeah, we saw that. Yeah.
And that was like such a like a goal of mine to like reach. And I remember I always wanted to like be featured on BBC Introducing, because I thought it was like the sickest thing when I was like 15, because I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna upload it to the uploader. Actually, I did get rejected from like my 14-year-old songs did not make the cut.
Oh, tragic.
It was like such a big, it was just like a mini milestone kind of thing, and I was so like, wow, like 2 years ago I never thought that would have happened at all. But I think same thing with what Carlotta was saying, I would still be doing, I'm not surprised I'm still doing music. I think I'm more surprised at like maybe that I've gone like public with it, like I've put stuff up, but yeah, not surprised I'm still doing music, but more surprised that it's going okay. I guess.
Nice. Yeah. Rebekah?
Yeah, I think for me, goal setting is a really difficult thing. I mean, I'm a very goal-oriented person, but over the past few years I've been doing music, I've discovered that so much of it is out of your control. Like, you can't choose what festivals you get picked for, what Spotify playlist you get on. That's out of your control. And so, it took the first few years of, we've been talking about rejection already. I've never got anything first time. Everyone gets rejected all the time. And so I learned to put goals on things that I can control, and like, rather than just be focused on achieving certain things in a few years, I'm just focused on like, am I enjoying it right now? And that's the moment I'm in. And if I'm enjoying it right now, then that's fine. Let's keep going. But in terms of thinking about a few years back or a few years forward, it is really important to think about that, because one thing I've learned, and one piece of advice that I always give to people who want to do music, is that everything takes way longer than you think it's going to take. So whenever I first started out after uni, I was like, okay, I'll take a year out and see how it goes. And now that gap year has been like 3 years in the making, and we're still going. And, things happen really slowly. So you need to take a step back and say, okay, what have I achieved in the past year or 2 years or 3 years? Because that's when you can see the progress. Like, you can't see it week on week. Nothing can happen in a week, really. Everything takes graft and everything takes time. So I think if I was to look back 2 years ago and see where I am now, my goals back then were different to what I am doing now, but I think I would be glad that I'm still doing it and I'm still enjoying it. So all around pretty good. Yeah.
Nice, brilliant. Pamina?
Yeah, so no, I didn't imagine I would be doing what I'm doing now. 2 years ago, I think my mindset changed actually when I started, getting into this leadership position. So 2, 3 years ago, because I was like, you know what, it's okay if I don't know what next year is going to be like or what my career is going to be like in 5 years. I'm just going to go with the flow, experiment, see what I like, what I don't like, and then see where that gets me. So yeah, no, I mean, I think for the startup slash arts management thing, I actually didn't know that that existed. And same for my full-time job. I just didn't know that type of job existed. So yeah, I think my advice would be just do what you like and keep, talking to people, share your passion, and in 6 months' time, you might be doing something you don't even know existed, and you'll love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everything's sort of changing at the moment. Yeah. Oh,
So yeah,
nice, brilliant. Carlotta?
I'm back.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like 2 years ago, I don't think I had like any kind of song out on SoundCloud, or maybe even like started writing something of my own that I actually liked or would have put public. Or I think even when I put out the like first thing on SoundCloud, like I didn't tell anyone about it. Like it was a big like secret, because if like people made fun of it, it'd be like the worst thing in the world. And so like it's completely unimaginable to just be like, just even putting it on my Instagram, be like, hey guys, like I've done this thing, like if you want to check it out. So I guess in that way, like it is kind of weird to think 2 years ago that, now I'm like here and I'm very like, like calling myself a musician, whereas I don't think I would have been doing that like 2 years ago, 1 year ago. Yeah, so it is quite weird thinking about that, I guess.
Nice, brilliant. Just a reminder for all of you in here, if you have any questions, give them in the chat, or unmute yourself, or even sort of like a hands up on the reactions thing. That'll be completely fine. Megan, do you have any questions? Oh, we've got a hand up. Sorry, I was about to go to you, Megan, just to start off, but we got Talia hands up. There we go.
Oh,
There we go. I've asked to unmute you, Talia.
It's actually fine. I think Megan can tell what she was going
Oh
to.
no, don't worry. Don't worry. It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead, Talia.
Well, I have a question for Pamina. I wanted to know more about artist management process that she went through. Pamina, could you please tell more about that process? So how is it better for the artists to what they should go through in order to find their artist manager? What kind of artist manager should that be? Just more, because you have been an insider of that sphere, of that industry.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for your question. So I mean, obviously, I'm still a very recent graduate, so I do have some experience, but I was not the one like fully managing and recruiting artists during my internship, for instance. So at IMG, I'd say the most important thing is to choose your agency and agent really well, because I mean, if you have a good relationship, like that's really important actually in your career and just in your life, because I mean, they're closely related, especially when you do music. Yeah, to make sure that just communication, promotion, like your goals as well are all aligned. So yeah, for IMG artists, I mean, I was mainly just supporting the agent and I wasn't there when, you know, they recruited a new artist. So that's all I can say on that end. And then for KALAB, I mean, so we do help emerging musicians. However, we are not managers. So we're just slightly different. So we basically just help them get their music out there. We are also organizing some workshops and things like this. So it's to support them while they're looking perhaps for a record label or management. So yeah, but if I keep working in that field, then let's talk in 1 or 2 years and I'll be able to give you more info. Sorry.
We'll ask the in 1 or 2 or 5 year question again and see where we get from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, Rebekah, are you part of a management or a record company?
Yeah, I have a management company, which is awesome, but we only started working together in like July. So up until July, I was self-managed, which was really challenging, but a massive learning curve. And yeah, I had to learn a lot. I had to know how everything worked and look after everything myself. But I think I wouldn't have changed that. I don't think I would want a manager really early on, because then you're not independent, you're not self-sufficient. And I had to learn everything about the business, you know, from royalties and with PRS and PPL, and how to register IP and copyright, and how to book gigs, how to put on gigs, how to release music online. I had to learn about distribution. I had to put myself in writing sessions, you know, and so I wouldn't rush into getting a manager, because that would then, I think, detract from what you can learn yourself. And ultimately, if you get yourself to a position where several people want to manage you and work with you, and they can give you something that you can't get yourself, then that's when you want to start actually thinking about it. There's so many people, myself included, who were just desperate for a manager for ages, and it's not necessary. You know, you can do the graft yourself, and actually handing some of the reign and the power over to someone else, that's a lot of trust, because you know yourself how much you want to work for something and how much you're willing to sacrifice for it. And if you start to delegate that to someone else, you want to make sure that they're in it for real and not just saying, oh, I'll manage you, that'll be fun. You know, you want to make sure that they can add something, because you're going to be paying them at the end of the day. Either that you want to make sure that they are super invested in what you do and they can get you somewhere that you can't get yourself, or I would say stick it out and keep grafting yourself, because people respect that a lot more.
Just as an expansion to that question, then, did they approach you to basically be like, "Hi, I would like to manage you," or did you go out and sort of search for managers and approach them? And if it was the second, how did you sort of whittle down who you were going to work with? Because obviously, as you've just said, it is a commitment. It's not just a case of like Bob down the street or something like that. It's a case of like, this person is going to be working with you on commercial ventures for the foreseeable future. So how do you go about whittling it down, like checklists and things like that?
Yeah, so for me, my personal story was that I was introduced by a mutual friend who thought we'd work really well together. She knew us both very well and had, you know, she's known us for a long time. And so she thought that we would work well together. So that was how it came about, that then my manager, he was willing to meet me, and then we kind of started off on a trial basis. But number one above anything else is trust. You know, if someone manages you, you have to trust them, because they are managing your finances, your releases. They're often having input on the creative side. They are pitching you to labels, to booking agents, to festivals. So you need to make sure that you get on well. I think that's number one. You know, it's the relationship between an artist and a manager is different every time. It's like a friendship, it's like a relationship. You know, there's so many facets to it, and you need to make sure that you know what type of a manager you want. Like, do you want someone who is starting out, massive grafter, doesn't have the contacts, but is going to work their butt off for you? Or do you want someone who manages 5 other bigger artists that you're not going to have as much one-on-one time with, but they maybe have the right contacts? I think it's about figuring out what kind of a relationship you want. And then I didn't necessarily approach lots of managers, but I made sure that I was on their radar, whether that was following them on Instagram or trying to grab a coffee with them, or just make sure that I was in their periphery so they knew about me, and if they had space for me on their roster, they could then approach me if they were interested. Because if they approach you, you know that the interest is genuine. It's not them just being polite or whatever.
Brilliant. Talia, does that somewhat answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for your insights.
No
Brilliant.
worries.
Thank you very much. Now we go to Jess, who has a question.
Hi. So I'm not too sure if it's like relative, because I'm not trying to get into creative. I'm trying to go more into like A&R, digital marketing for a label. And maybe actually, Pamina, this might be a question for you. So
All the questions coming to Pamina.
Basically, so I did my undergrad in music, and I'm at Durham doing an MSc in marketing now, and I've got like unpaid A&R work. I've done like unpaid work in studios, like I've done some unpaid digital marketing things, and I'm applying to all of these internships, but I still can't get past the point blank general rejection letters. And I was just wondering, maybe Pamina, how you got your internship, because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. And I feel the pain, girl, because for the past, so I've been doing stuff on the side, but like my actual employment right now, I got it only like a month and a half ago. I also spent like 6 months just applying, getting rejected.
Yeah.
So my internship, like my summer internship in arts management, so I think I got it between my second and third year undergrad. I can give you the link if you're interested. It's slightly different than what you're talking about, but so I don't know, I applied, and I guess it was also the right timing because they were looking for someone, so it was relatively easy to get that summer internship. And then otherwise, I think you're doing the right thing to do things on the sidely to volunteer. And I think, I don't know what type of companies or agencies you're applying for. What I would recommend is perhaps looking at more niche and like smaller agencies that there might be less competition. And then, once you get like 6 months, 1 year of experience on top of that, then you'll probably be able to go into your dream company, or I'm not sure what you're targeting exactly. That's why I would recommend you. And because you have that background in music, that's what you said, right? Yeah. I don't know, perhaps there are agencies that are specialized in this type of thing, where you have that combination of music and digital marketing. There might be specific positions where the client would be a music client, and you have to do marketing for them or something. So I think you should really play on what makes you special, and don't discourage yourself. If you want to have a chat after this call, feel free. Yeah.
Thanks, that really helped. Thank you.
Brilliant. I was also just about to say, if the people involved wanted to. Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Flo. Sorry, I've just seen the thing on the chat. But yeah, I was just going to say, like, if the four of you wanted to sort of share details with people, you maybe put your email down in the chat, just for people to contact you on advice or stuff like that. Does that sound cool? Nice, brilliant. Also, going on from that, Jess, I know didn't you said you were working for free in some A&R stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, I am at the moment. Yeah.
Brilliant, stunning. Yeah. This goes out to all four of you then. Obviously, with the arts, it's not as sort of concretic in how much like you're worth or you're getting paid, because like with if you're in the legal profession, you know how much roughly a case is. If you're a doctor, you know how much you've got to prescribe things. But with arts, it's very, very different in that sense. It's basic. It's the height of subjectivity. It's dependent on sort of what you can give to the person you're performing with, the person you're working with, and what the person you're working with can ultimately house with you. So my question to all four of you then is, not necessarily how much do you sort of like judge your worth, but sort of like what do you think about when making these sort of decisions for sort of pricing and stuff like that for gigs? Like even if you haven't done gigs and stuff like that, especially for this year, like how would you go about having that conversation with with somebody who's wanting to sort of employ you for a gig? If anyone wants to start.
I can say a couple of words,
sure.
and then I think so. I think, I mean, first of all, it depends a lot, I think, on the client slightly, because where I come from is that the startup I'm working in, so we have a lot of business, like corporate clients, and obviously the type of event and the type of budget that they have is really different from B2C, so that would be like kind of individual customer. So I think that's a big thing. And then looking at people around you just to get like a kind of market type of idea of how much other people charge. And I think as an artist it might be really easy to just I'd rather be booked for 50 quid even if it's nothing, rather than not having this gig at all. But I think in the long term that would just like you would do yourself a disservice. So yeah, be ready, I think, with like kind of a range of prices. Aim towards like the high end and then you negotiate. No, but like that's true. I'd love to hear what people who perform more than I do think about that.
Angharad?
Yeah. Sorry. I think it's always quite hard because you do want to, because you love what you do anyway, so I would perform for free. And especially when you're just starting out, it's just kind of like just good practice. But at the end of the day, if you do want to make a career out of this, you have to like be paid. So I don't know, I'm excited to like have those conversations, hopefully soon, maybe summer, I don't know, I think it's all going to be cancelled. And then maybe
forever the optimist.
Yeah. Maybe coming from like a woman in a like mostly male dominated behind the scenes music industry, that would, I don't know how that dynamic would also play out. Hopefully maybe there's going to be more female like booking agents and like stuff, but I don't know, maybe that could be something interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Rebekah? Sorry, go on. Sorry. Angharad. Sorry.
I'd probably like undervalue myself in that situation, I think, when you're talking to someone who has something that you want. So yeah.
Nice. Rebekah?
Yeah, I think if you're starting out at the very beginning, you will be doing gigs for free. That's just part of it. That's just how you hone your craft and make connections and pick up paid gigs, is by like going to open mics or doing charity gigs for free or anything like that. It takes a good bit of humility. And even whenever you move somewhere new, like when I moved to London, it was like I've been gigging full time for 2 years, but I was back to doing free gigs because no one knew who I was. Why would they pay you if they don't know what you can do, who you are? So at the start, definitely it's tough. You have to be willing to do it for free. But then I think after that, you can start to get a feel for the different types of events and what budgets they have. So, if you're playing a support act for someone and it's their headline show and it's not a massive band, they're going to be paying you out of their own pocket, and that's a lot. They probably won't be making any money from that gig, so that's not going to pay very well. Whereas like a gig, playing a couple hours in a pub, they might give you 100, 150 quid, whatever. But then if you're moving up to like corporate gigs where they have a much bigger budget and you're playing at bigger events, feel free to ask for more, and then they can either come back and say that's not within our budget, or they might accept it. I think it's always best to say what your fee is and then ask if that fits their budget. And if they say no, then you can negotiate. But if they say yes, then great. But it is a learning curve, I mean, it's not like when you get to a certain stage after being a musician for a few years that you have a set rate. It changes depending on the event. How much time is it going to take you to travel there, to set everything up, to learn the music? You have to build in rehearsal time and everything. So yeah, don't undervalue yourself, but also if it's the very start, then there's a bit of grafting to be done before we get to the paid bit, I think. Yeah.
It's just learning the key skills of negotiations and sort of like it's essentially just trying to find the sort of the temperature of the water before you go into it. Yeah. Nice. Carlotta?
I don't really have anything useful to say about this. I don't think I'm not even thought about gigging at all, because I don't know, that hasn't even really crossed my mind. But yeah, so I think everyone else was probably like a lot more useful than anything that I could say. But I mean, I would say like ask Google, but you know, you probably can figure that out yourself. So I'm not, yeah.
No, don't worry. That's no problem at all. That's no problem at all. It's just whatever experiences we can bring to the table. Nice. If any of you have any more questions, just feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat. That's cool. I'll probably go along the line now. And Megan, as Talia and Jess had a question before you. Do you have any questions to bring to the panel?
I don't have any specific ones, but I guess particularly, what would you kind of say if you do have a rejection or you're kind of lacking in motivation? What is your kind of go-to, I don't know, process for getting that motivation built up again, for pushing yourself harder or that sort of thing? It's not really a specific question, but I think we can all use a bit of help with self-motivation now and then. So if you have anything good to share, please do.
Especially in this environment, it's definitely sort of needed, because we're all in front of our computers at the moment. We're all sort of stagnant. We just need that sort of environment to work around in. I'll start again, alphabetical order. Angharad?
That's quite a difficult one, especially with writer's block. That's kind of where I'm at right now, and just yeah, I kind of would put it away for a bit, stop thinking about it, and then when you come back to it, it's a lot. You kind of see it with fresh eyes. Same thing with like rejection. Like I would just put it away and not think about it. But then like yeah, I don't know, motivation, I guess, like listening to music that I really like and I find really inspiring kind of inspires me to want to do what they do, if that makes sense. Like yeah, basically.
I said nice, but then also realized I was on mute. Very fair. Rebekah?
Yeah, I think rejection's such a tricky one. Never take it personally. It's never personal. It's either, well, mostly it's a timing thing, I think, especially like with funding. I have been rejected from funding a lot and never got anything first time round. But it's something that's so crucial in allowing you to do the projects that you want to do. Whenever you don't make enough money from anything yet, you know, funding's a great way. Don't take it personally. It's nothing to do with that. It's normally circumstantial or timing, something to do with that. But also, I guess just having a really clear idea of why you do what you do is helpful, because then if you face rejection and you start to consider giving up, like, is the reason that you want to do it because you want a certain amount of success, or is it because you enjoy it, or is it because you feel like it's your calling and it's important to say what you need to say? You know, I think having some kind of mission statement as an artist, as in why you do what you do, and coming back to that every time, that will recenter you. So you have a knockback, it will recenter you to pick yourself up and realign yourself with your own vision of why it is what you do, you know. And then I think with motivation, yeah, totally listening to music that inspires you and that gets you going and makes you want to create. And I think for me, actually, a lot of the time it's watching like awesome music documentaries where you see the whole story and you see the rejection that other people have faced, and then you realize that actually this is just part of your story in getting to where you want to be. But yeah, definitely take a step back and realign yourself with why you do it, and watch some sick documentaries for sure.
I was about to add, what documentaries are you watching at the moment to sort of give yourself that level of inspiration?
The last one I watched was Quincy, the one about Quincy Jones on Netflix, which I don't know if any of you have seen it, but I am just amazed that one man has fitted so much into one life. But anyway, it's amazing. I love watching them all the time. So there's loads on Netflix. So yeah.
Nice, brilliant. Pamina?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Rebekah said. Actually, we have a bit of the same techniques. So yeah, I think whatever the rejection, don't take it personally. I think if you're sure that this opportunity or this company, whatever, is right for you, then I would definitely encourage you to, keep practicing and then try again. Sometimes rejections are a blessing, and you might find something that's a better fit for you, in the future. That's what happened for me. Yeah, otherwise, I don't know. I just have a good cry. I take the evening off. I eat. I stop being on social media, because what you see is just people's successes. I mean, most of the time. And yeah, I just take the evening off. I cry it out, and then I'm ready to go the next day. It's okay to take little breaks, and I'll
It's
get
literally
better.
like a grand old reset.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
so that's my little techniques.
Nice. Carlotta?
Yeah, like a lot of like good things have already been said, and like with the rejection thing, like I kind of really touched on that a little bit, but yeah, I think something that I do, I don't know like if this is helpful or not, but like sometimes I guess it's like quite obvious as to why like you're rejected. Like if you take for example like when I applied to DH1 first time and I didn't get it, what I told myself was like like I didn't have a lot that they could listen to and like figure out who I was, and I think at that point I didn't even really know who I was or wanted to be as a musician. And so when I did get that rejection, I kind of like talked to myself about it. I was like, okay, well this and this probably was a couple of the reasons why, and then that's what I then worked on that year, or like I focused or gave that importance, like trying to figure out what kind of music I wanted to make, or like just making more so that I had more experience. So I guess sometimes in rejection you can also just find areas that you can work on and just like make, I don't know, yourself better. It doesn't apply always, obviously, but for me that has helped. And then motivation wise, this is going to sound like really narcissistic, but I think like listening back to things you're really proud of that you've made yourself has always been really useful for me, because like then you're like, well, I can do it, like I have done it before and I can do it again. And you like find stuff, well, hopefully you like find things and like stuff you've made and be like, oh, I really like this, or I really like how I did this. And then it just kind of, I don't know, it always gives me a little bit of a confidence boost, and again just like recenters me and is like, oh, like I've made something good and I can do it again. And then listening to like other people's music, of course, because you always learn new things and like can find new techniques and what people are doing. Like if I always try like really analyzing songs that I really like as well, or like listening to podcasts where they like break down each individual part and try and find bits that I really like, and then I'll try and like do something similar, or try and recreate that kind of moment or whatever. And then in doing that, I then usually like stumble upon something that I can use for myself, or like out of that just comes something new. But yeah, so I'd say like motivationally, I was trying to learn a new skill like within the production kind of software, or just approach something from a completely new angle.
Nice, brilliant. We're getting a bit light on people now, but to be fair, it is a uni night and it's 7 o'clock, so probably they'll have summatives to do. So we'll go along the line and see if anyone has any more questions. Jess, do you have any more?
No, all mine have been answered. Thank you.
Brilliant. Ottilie?
I feel like a lot has been covered. I was just interested. This is probably more Angharad and Carlotta. You're both sort of saying like doing it on the side, which is so good. And really like inspiring considering uni is hard enough. But I was just wondering if you're gonna try and do music like full time after uni, or like keep it as like a side thing and just see how it goes, and like if it gets taken off by itself. Yeah, like if you have a strategy for that sort of thing.
I haven't really thought about it. But I get really stressed out when I'm hearing people applying for like internships and jobs this year and like getting accepted, and they're like literally one of my housemates has got like his next 3 years figured out because he's got like a job in Edinburgh for like 3 years, and I'm just
I'm
like,
not gonna lie, that's terrifying. That's a terrifying prospect.
You've got your life figured out, and I just don't. I think I'm gonna take a year out of uni. I don't know why. I kind of want to go to Spain, like Barcelona. It's really calling to me. And then I guess figure out from there what I wanted. I think I'll always do music on the side. But yeah, I don't know, it's a big step to then say I want to do this as like a career. Like, I don't know if my friends would laugh.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely didn't consider it a possibility, and maybe this year's, or like around now, is maybe the first time that I'm like, oh, like maybe I could do this. But then that's also like a scary thing to say about yourself, and then suddenly like everything does become very scary, because you know, like it's one of those dreams where everyone's like, oh, have a plan B, like have a plan B. And so yeah, I guess I'm like kind of in the middle of that. Like I'm kind of thinking about my plan B and whether it's actually a plan A or not. Yeah, I don't know, like, cause I was actually gonna ask Rebekah, like, how hard was it making that decision to, like, you know, leave uni and be like, oh, I want to pursue this, like I actually want to work really hard and like see if it goes anywhere? Because I feel like, you know, you have experience of that, but I think I'm kind of there at the moment, being like, oh, like, should I, because it, you know, it does require like a lot of effort if you do want to pursue it properly, or should I like not? So I have no idea myself. Yeah,
I think like if you have the means, like if you can move back home and, you know, try it for a year and figure it out, then you'll maybe regret it if you don't. You know, a year, like I'm 25 now, I'm like friggin' ancient, but if you have a year that you want to like give it a go, like you'll regret it if you don't. A year is nothing. A year is so short. Like I would 100% go for it. And then if you end up not enjoying it, actually, because in the day-to-day life that it ends up being, you're like, actually, this isn't for me. I'd rather have some stability and do this in my free time when it doesn't feel like work all the time. Then you'll figure that out, but otherwise you'll never kind of know. I think for being an artist definitely requires a certain type of personality where you are a self-starter and motivated, and obviously all of us go through periods when we lack motivation. That's just human. But if you like people to tell you what to do and give you structure and direction, then being an artist is not those things. It's very much like figuring it out yourself, chance in your arm. You have to live a life of uncertainty, but at the same time, like if you have a drive that will overcome that and you like it and you love it enough, then definitely give it a shot, because you'll regret it if you don't, you know.
thank you.
Brilliant. We've got artist asking artist here. Really good. So we'll go on next to Julianne. Do you have any questions, Julianne?
Yeah, hi. This has been really inspirational. And yeah, I think I'm wondering, it actually fits perfectly to what you just said, Rebekah, how for example, if you're wanting to start a new project or you're wanting to post something on Instagram, so I'm thinking about posting some of my piano things, but I'm kind of scared of the Instagram world. But I'm wondering, yeah, when you have a clean slate, how you do just sit down and say, okay, today is going to be productive, because I find it so odd when you're just on your own and you want to be productive, and normally that comes from other people. I feel like normally you play with other people and you get the inspiration. And so yeah, I'm wondering whether you have any experience about kind of shaping your day to be productive, whether you have very strict timings and you literally say, okay, from 9 a.m. I'm gonna start composing, or whether this is way too abstract and it just happens way more naturally.
I think it's totally a mix. You need routine, 100%. Otherwise you'll never get anything done. So I try to have like a specific start time and a morning routine that I always do the same thing. But what I love about it is the variety. You know, some days will be all emails, like trying to get gigs or trying to sort stuff out. Some days it'll be social media, making content. Other times it will be writing, you know, trying to write lyrics or trying to produce something. So I think I never struggle to fill my time. I always feel like I don't have enough time because as an artist, there are a million different things that you need to be working on at once. You know, your social media presence, improving your performance craft, like your singing, your piano playing, whatever it is, improving your songwriting, improving your production, trying to network. I think it gets a bit overwhelming. So if you basically have a list of the different things that you need to be looking after, then you can figure it into a schedule that works for you. Like, for example, if you're a morning person and you feel like you're most creative in the morning, then do your songwriting then. But if you would rather just sit down in the morning and get into your rhythm of doing admin, then do your creative bit in the afternoon maybe. But it's about experimenting. Make a list of all the things that you need to look after, like making content, networking, sending emails, keeping on top of your admin, all the finances and everything. Like there's a lot to juggle. So I think it's less about like staring into the void and trying to fill your time, because you'll have no problem filling your time. It's more just figuring out how to manage things and how to schedule it. It takes time to get into your routine, but I think having some kind of a routine where you have a start time and an end time is super important, just so you don't feel like you are losing track of what you're doing. You know, does that help at all?
Yeah, no, that actually sounds really good. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
Brilliant, stunning. I'll ask Kat and Lizzie whether they have any questions. So Kat, do you have any questions?
I don't, but this has been very interesting, so thank you.
Thanks for coming, Kat. And Liz, do you have any questions?
Again, no, but just loved the chat. It was great. Yeah, really
been along for the ride.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for holding it.
Yeah, no, genuinely, thank you to all five of you, and also I say that as well to Martha as well, who's not in the call but anymore. But thank you, Angharad, thank you, Carlotta, thank you, Pamina, and thank you, Rebekah. This has been a really, really fun call. Stressful to organise because of the links, but we got there in the end. So this is really, really good. But no, but genuinely, thank you so much to everyone who's in the call at the moment. Thank you to everyone who has come and answered a question and sort of gone off from there. We hope to hear from you guys in the future. Yeah, genuinely, just thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for organizing.
No problem at all.
Thank you.